Okay. All right. So hopefully this will work. This is my third time trying to go live tonight. So I am just going to get started and hopefully it is allowing you to hear me. Turn my volume up. Facebook Live is allowing you to hear me and also see me. Hopefully there are no pauses. Good evening. It is Colette Shumper, transitional life coach for mothers who have lost their children and are trying to find life afterwards. It's Thursday, and Thursday is our night of where this is the last Thursday actually of November, and we will be talking about grief. I am not sure who that is who has joined us. If you could just let me know that you hear and see me okay. I'm getting some pauses in the screen when as I speak or move. So if you could just give me a thumbs up or a hi, that would be great. But tonight I am going to be discussing grief and the emotion of grief. Hey, Lisa. I've been trying to get on for a few minutes. I'm not sure if you joined any of the other broadcasts, but I deleted those. I miss you too. I wasn't here on Monday for our encouraging word. I did, however, record a video, but I was not live. I had another engagement, but it's good to see you. Thank you for joining. I do hope all is well, Lisa. So tonight we're going to talk about grief again. Good. I'm glad you can hear me. We're going to talk about grief for our last Thursday of November. We're going to talk about the fact of the emotion of guilt that comes with grief. And so let's just talk about that. Let's talk about what guilt is. Guilt is an internal conflict that is happening whenever we feel guilty. It's something that is happening on the inside that says something should be a certain way and it's not. So you get the emotion of guilt. Guilt is a part of everybody's makeup. Everybody has a level of guilt in something. And what I mean by that is this. Maybe you didn't make the expectations that someone had for you. Maybe you hurt someone's feelings and it made you feel guilty because maybe you had to tell them you were sorry or you apologized. Maybe there's a moral compass that you crossed in your own life, something that you set for yourself, and you feel guilty about that. So when I say guilt is a normal part of everyone's life at some point, those are the things that I'm referring to. Because what guilt can do, guilt can be a healthy emotion. Guilt will make you want to live right. It will keep you in line to do what's right. It will also show you where you can have empathy for other people. So it's not as if guilt is like this horrible emotion that we should never have. We need to talk about the guilt level of when we feel guilty about the transition or the death of our child or someone that we love. There is another unhealthy guilt that we need to deal with. Typically, that guilt is more or less because we feel like we have some unfinished business. There were some things we didn't accomplish. There may be some things that we hope to see happen. I know with the death of my son, I felt that way. I felt that I wouldn't see exactly how his life would turn out. And I'm not sure that fell totally in the guilt category, but I did feel like there were unfinished business. There were things that I didn't say or didn't do prior to him passing, not necessarily because I promised him, but because I thought that we would have time. One of the other things that guilt does is it makes you feel regret of what you said, what you didn't say, what you did or what you didn't do. So that falls under the guilt emotion. What also happens is what thoughts you may have had before or during or after the loss. Sometimes some people may have been angry with the person who passed, the child. Some people may have been didn't say goodbye, didn't have the conversations that they wanted to have or should have had. So all of those things can lead you into a place of feeling guilt. Maybe there were some promises that you made that you don't have the ability to fulfill because you no longer have the time and they're no longer here. Those are the categories within guilt that we want to talk about tonight. The thoughts of what could have been can be something that can consume you. When we think about the things that could have been, that thought alone can consume you to the point where you will always live in the past. And so you'll live in things like, if only, I could have, I should have, I wish. Those things can keep you in the dark. They will keep you in the dark. They will also, honestly, are a place where you are punishing yourself because you live in that space of guilt of not coulda, shoulda, woulda, I wish. So you're never living in the present. So you're at a place where you are dealing only with what shoulda, could have been, but has no opportunity of being now. Living in that space can lead you to a place of fear. It can lead you to a place of anxiety. It can lead you to a place of insecurities, depression, isolation. It can lead you to all of those things if you stay in the shoulda, coulda, woulda category. I wish I had when it comes to losing a child or a loved one. Those are places that are easy to stay in because your thoughts can be overtaken by those scenarios, what I could have did, what I should have said. So it's easy to look back in your mindset in hindsight and say all of those things. But we all know that life doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, we can never go back and redo the past. And especially when you've lost a child or a loved one, there is no way to go back and redo that past. So to live in a space of guilt about those things that we've discussed, the shoulda, woulda, couldas, to live in a place of guilt is punishment. You're punishing yourself in a place that you don't have to, because that is an unrealistic situation. What we can do, what we can't do is spend time in the past, but we can right now do the best that we can to rectify either our behaviors, the relationships that we currently have, or those that we seek to have. When we think about what guilt looks like, there are 5 things that guilt looks like that I thought were very important to mention. But there are more than these 5 things that guilt can look like. And I'm going to be teaching more on this in my monthly group at some point in January. So let's talk about that. We talked about it. It can look like regret. A person who would live in a lot of regret. I wish I shoulda, coulda. That is a lot of the statements that they will have. Number 2, they will have a lot of fear, anxiety, and insecurities. Being in a place of guilt doesn't allow you to live in the here and now. It takes you to a place where you will continue to live in something that is not now. So it doesn't allow you to have freedom. Again, we talked about punishing yourself. I think that is the number one thing that guilt does, is it forces the person who feels guilty to punish themselves, to not live life, to live only in the past, to not look forward to fun or smiling or freedom and friends, new relationships, because they are right at that one place where they felt guilty and have not been able to let that go. They have sad faces. They don't necessarily like being around a lot of people, because that will create some new memories, and they like to stay in what's old. And again, they avoid enjoyment. Those are the 5 things that I felt, that I see in a lot of people who feel guilty about loss, maybe about how they live life. So the guilt emotion can go in so many different categories, or have subcategories, let me say, that it actually looks like. But let's talk about how we can combat guilt, okay? Let's talk about that. The key element to combating guilt is know that it's self-imposed. And let's just stop there for a second and talk about that. Guilt is self-imposed. That means that you have the ability to release yourself from it, and you have the ability to keep yourself in it. Guilt is not something that someone puts on you that you have to take or keep. One of the things I do realize is that sometimes people can say things that make you feel guilty, but the reality is that you have the ability to take it or leave it. And so when we talk about guilt with the loss of a child or a loss of a loved one, if in fact you feel guilty, it's self-imposed, because it's something you can't change. It's something you can't change. If in fact you could change it, then you could relieve the guilt by changing it. But since you can't change it, you can relieve the guilt by letting it go. Don't allow yourself to impose guilt upon you because of something that you didn't do or you should have said, because that opportunity has now expired. Number 2, the other thing that you have to do to relieve yourself of guilt and or deal with it is to forgive. Forgiving yourself about what it is you didn't do, what you should have, could have, will allow you to have some freedom where you won't have that self-imposed situation. But you got to learn how to forgive, because this is the deal. None of us are perfect. Every one of us are human, and we all have made mistakes, and we all wish that we could redo some things that we don't have the ability to go back and redo. So I think that is the most important, right under knowing that it's self-imposed, is that you get right to forgiving yourself. Forgiving yourself for what you should have, could have done, because it's not possible anymore. All right. The third thing that you can do to alleviate guilt is to develop some type of prayer life, some type of meditation life where you meditate on peace and forgiveness, where you pray for peace and forgiveness, and know that you receive it and operate in a place of peace and forgiveness. I do know for myself, at some points in my life, I have to almost demand it even from the people around me. I need peace. I need to be in a place of forgiveness. And for those who can't forgive, it's a hard life. It's a rough life to not be able to forgive, especially after you've already suffered a loss. There is no reason to punish yourself. You see how it kind of goes hand in hand? You got to be able to forgive. You have to know that guilt is a self-imposed behavior. And you also have to know that you have the ability to walk in a freedom if you just let the guilt go and go ahead and deal with the forgiveness that you're human. We all have, like I said, have something that we could have done differently in our life, even before the loss of a child. But if we live in that space, we become fearful, we become anxious, we become insecure, we're self-inflicting pain, and it's not something that is going to be healthy for the rest of the life that you have. Another way you can deal with or cope with, and we've talked about this before, is to have some conversations. Have some conversations with people that you trust. And if in fact you don't have a group of people that, or a person that you trust, maybe finding some support groups, some people who are maybe have dealt with the same thing you have, much like what we do here on We Loved and Lost. We deal with the loss of a child. Every person, or not, maybe not every person, but most people who come here have lost a child and are looking for a place to be understood, to have some empathy, and to know that it's a community where we can talk about it, where we can cry about it, where we can, get some advice, some help, some compassion, because not everyone has experienced it. And knowing that it is good to be in an environment where the people have experienced that which you're actually going through. So, and the fifth thing I want to mention that you can do to cope with guilt is this. Sometimes you have an opportunity to take care of the unfinished business, because that is the crust of what most people feel guilt around when they lose a loved one, is that they feel that there was some unfinished business. They didn't have the opportunity to say goodbye. They didn't have the opportunity to say, I love you one more time. They didn't have the opportunity to, do that 50th birthday party, or that second birthday party, or that golden birthday party. You have the opportunity to take care of some unfinished business, even though the person is not there. And it may not be valid to some people, but for you, if doing the very thing that you felt is unfinished is going to give you the relief that you need to no longer feel guilty, then I suggest you do it. I want to give you an example of what it is that I'm talking about. And I talked about this maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago. There's a woman who I know, and she deals with her mother being gone. She's lost her mother. And with that being said, every year for her mother's birthday, she would pack a box at least a month prior with all of the things that she liked to give to her mother, and she'd take it to her because she lived in another state. So Mom's not here anymore. And we talked for a couple of years about, you need to go ahead and do a box. You still need to do the box. And so this year she finally found someone to be able to give a box to, so she's doing the box. It's the unfinished business. And it may be unfinished every year. She may decide to do this, and that's okay. That's okay, because it's something that first of all helps her do the unfinished thing, but it also helps her to do something in the name of her mother, in the legacy of her mother, and it gives her someone else to love on, not like her mother, but in the season that she needs to have something else. So that's what I'm talking about when I say go and do some of the unfinished business if you can. Those are the types of things that you can do. And so that is our grief emotion for this week, and it is guilt. I do hope that helps you. I hope that on this journey of finding life after loss, these videos are helping you to be able to cope with wherever you are in the process, because it is a process and it's not one that people get past right away or in a certain period of time. So even if you have to go back over the videos and look at them, they're always on Facebook. I have started to upload them to YouTube, and I have put a few of them on my new website. The website is welovedandlost.com. that is where I will put the course that I'll be offering. I'm hoping to have that course up and at least the information available to you to be able to consider becoming a part of the closed door community of We Loved and Lost. So, well, it's the holidays and it is December. It is, again, the anniversary for me and the loss of my son. So I won't have a structured schedule for December, but I will be coming on every week, a few times a week, with encouraging words, and then we'll see what the direction will be for our other session that we'll have during the month of December. So I thank you for joining the broadcast tonight. I do pray that everyone is having a wonderful evening. I ask that you share the video with those that you know who may need it. And you all have a wonderful night. And I'll see you sometime next week. Everybody have a good night. Bye-bye.